Hello, and welcome to the podcast, Equipped to March, with WVU Chi Alpha. The hope of this podcast is to equip small groups with sound biblical teachings on God and how to walk with Him, and to equip the small group leader with the tools to lead as God has called them. We pray you are equipped and encouraged by this podcast in order that you can march well for our King on the college campus. Now, please welcome our hosts.
Hey, thank you for coming back to our podcast, Equipped to March. We're excited to be with you guys today. We have a couple guests. What's your name, sir?
I am Brandon Purdue.
Brandon, and?
I'm Marley.
Awesome. And this is the star, everybody.
Christopher.
Yep, Christopher.
The star.
And I am Charles. Who are you guys? You've been here before.
I have. Yeah.
Nothing else.
I'm a small group leader. First year small group leader here for Chi Alpha. It's kind of fun. Small group leading during a pandemic, sort of. There were challenges with it, but I don't know. I'm having a ball.
That's awesome. How about you?
Yeah, I'm also first year small group leader.
Right on.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah? Sweet.
I'm like an 8th year small group. I'm old. Don't drink this after 5:30. But yeah, so today the topic that we're talking about is this idea that our lives bear fruit. And the Bible talks about in Proverbs that iron sharpens iron. And so we have these two ideas where like my life impacts and affects the people around me. And so, yeah, just kind of like to start us off, what would you guys say that it means for my life to bear fruit?
I feel like it's just like the impact that you leave and that like there is going to be something after you. And I mean, you want it to be something good, but I mean, you can also like see in the world how there are things that aren't positive, and trying to make fruit that is going to like be positive and build up the things around them. And just, like you want to be somebody that's bearing good fruit and not tearing others down.
Yeah.
And like what it means to bear good fruit is like affecting those around you and like a community as well, and just like strengthening your brothers and sisters, whether it's like roommates or just friends in class or just hanging out, whatnot. Even small group leaders too. You just need to like produce that good fruit and show them like, hey, this is what it means to be good or to be bearing good fruit.
So there's like, you guys are saying that there's a potential to bear both like good and bad fruit, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like, is this like, I don't know, like, do you guys have like examples of this in like your life, or like have you seen this, or like kind of what would it look like to do one or the other, bear good fruit or like bear bad fruit?
I would say
I'm sorry.
sorry. I would say like bearing good fruit is like having daily devotion to Jesus and just like residing in Him and whatnot. I mean, it talks about it in John 15. Just like if we remain in Him, He will produce good fruit through us. So having that daily devotion to Him, it would affect those around us. But to produce bad fruit is like when we don't have that daily devotion with Him and we start doing things on our own and stuff. An example I can think of is one of my small group guys I can think of. He's living in South Park next year, and he's living with a bunch of guys that he met in his dorm and stuff, and they're not Christians. And honestly, my heart broke when he told me that, because I'm like, man, like you're a godly man, and I want you to have that community where there's going to be good fruit produced. Because it's like, I imagine it as like a fruit bowl, just that one bad clementine in there just affects everything else. And it's just like, it's such a bad bowl of fruit that you have to throw it away. And it's like, I want him to be in a community or living in a community where he can be sharpened or like can produce good fruit for other people, but also for himself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, like, especially in college, we say, like, it's enough to just have, like, at least a little bit of good. And, like, it's still okay to do, like, a little bit of bad every once in a while. You know, like, it's okay if, like, only once a month I go out and party and, like, get drunk and, like, go crazy, whatever. It's only once, though. Right. But, like, yeah, if you're actually thinking about fruit, like, if you have one piece of bad fruit, it is going to spill into everything else. Right. And it's going to make everything else turn into something bad. And you're not going to be able to make yourself better if you, like, leave that one thing there. And I think that's also what's so important about community and surrounding yourself with people who also see the value in taking out the bad and, like, trusting your friends to be able to say, like, hey, you're not doing so hot, you know, like, you need to take this thing out. And right before the iron sharpens iron verse in Proverbs, it says, like, you can trust your friends' wounds, but, like, enemies will multiply their kisses. And, like, your friends, they might say something that's hurtful, but they're saying it because they want you to be better. Yeah. And they want to stick with you and see you through that and make you better through that hurt and through that pain. And they want to take out the bad things and make you better through it.
Yeah. That's cool. That verse is, like, really significant because enemies multiply kisses. Oh, it's okay. Why do you think they do that? So that I can feel better about myself. If I see you kind of, like, going down this road of bearing bad fruit, and I am, like, just a bad fruit tree, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, come on, like we're doing these things. It's not that bad. And I think that's, like, a good point to say. People that love me enough to care about my future. We say, like. I've heard say, like, facts don't care about your feelings, but we say, like, future over feelings. It doesn't mean your feelings are invalid. It doesn't mean that I'm just going to go around, like, bulling a china shop, like, hurting everyone. Oh, I hope everybody cries around me, you know. But your future, it really is more valuable than your feelings to me. And for me to say, hey, like you were saying, hey, I see this in you, and I love you, and that's why I want to say this. And I think that you don't maybe recognize, like, how hurtful it is, or how not just to other people, but, like, hurtful to Jesus, the way that you treat your family, or the way that you treat your roommate, or the way, you know. I don't think you maybe realize how disgraceful that can be. And when we say those things, it can be offensive to me. Like, if I don't like hearing what I'm bad at. But I can get over it more quickly than if you just kind of say, oh yeah, pat me on the back, okay, keep doing what you're doing, and then I find out you're like, yeah, I knew you shouldn't have been doing up to that stuff. Like, why did you say anything, you know, type of thing. And I don't know. I think that's, like, pretty significant.
Yeah, I think, like, I mean, just the reality that, like what you said, Brandon, about if we spend time with Jesus. Yeah. Then we'll bear good fruit. We'll bear the fruit that He wants us to bear. But I think it's true regardless that whatever I'm consuming is going to affect what, like, is in me and, like, what comes out of me.
Yes.
And there's a passage in Luke chapter 6, verse 43. It records Jesus talking about a ton of different things at this point, but in 6:43 through 45, it says, "No good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People do not pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars.
Right.
The good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and the evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For out of the overflow of his heart, his mouth speaks." And so, you know, Jesus is just saying, like, you don't really have to kind of debate about what kind of tree you think it is. Just look at its fruit and you can tell. And so if I look at, like, what I'm producing, or, like, the influence, whether good or bad, that I have on the people around me, then you can tell what I'm consuming. You can tell what's inside of me. Yeah. And if we're filling ourselves with Jesus, then over time I will become more full of Jesus and less full of the other things. But if I'm filling myself with stuff that just, you know, makes me happy, or, you know, like, feels cool, or, you know, feels good, or whatever, then what's going to come out of me is like that stuff primarily.
Yeah.
Because like you can't really be full of Jesus plus other things very
that's right,
well. Like you kind of, there's only so much room to be full of, you know? And if I try to fill myself with other things besides Jesus, then there's not going to be much Jesus inside of me. So yeah, just realizing like what I consume affects what I produce is like so crazy. And like I think a lot of people don't think about that. Do you guys see that? Like, I don't know, just friends, like in yourself, like have you seen like how what either you or your friends consume and how that affects like how they treat other people basically?
Yeah, I remember one time in college we had this like it's called Fall Fest here, but ours was in like it seemed like it was like in the middle of the year, not the beginning. So like everyone was kind of no, it was the beginning. Everyone was kind of gearing up. It was kind of the same. Like they released like who's coming, to be like the concert or whatever. And I was working through the summer at the visitor center, and me and my friend were like found out that this guy came, and it was Ludacris, the rapper,
The guy, yeah.
And like we were like, oh yes, like Ludacris, this is so weird, but like I kind of like his music, and so we're at our job on campus. We were working through the summer. We started listening to Ludacris a lot, and I remember both of us like we'd get there, we're like, oh dude, Ludacris is coming. Like neither of us are like fans. Like he was already kind of irrelevant at that point, and so it was just kind of like, well, this will be fun. And so we'd get to work and like, all right, everybody, like get pumped up. We're like, he's coming, you know? So we'd like play the Ludacris music. And not lying, like every single day around, like, let's say we start work at 8. Every single day around like 10, we would be so aggressive and like so grumpy and like so rude to people. And we never were that way. Like the guy that I was working with, he was my friend named Keenan. Like he was so kind, like just like the nicest guy. And we recognized like because we were listening to this like crap, like just anger, rude, like kind of degrading music for, you know, it's not like we were listening to it like all the way up, but it was on.
Yeah.
It was an atmosphere of bad fruit. I remember like we both noticed like, dude, why are you being a jerk? Like, honestly, I think it's because I listen to Ludacris every day. And it was funny, but it was also like very scary to think that like such a silly, small thing really did affect both of us in such a huge way. Like the way that we treated our boss, the way that we treated like our other employers. Like I just remember thinking like, if this stupid like album or whatever is making me is spoiling like my heart in a sense, then what am I doing? Like I need to be so cautious of like what I'm inputting in order for my output. And I also remember thinking like, oh, my output's not so bad. What if it is? Like, what if my output could be like, what if it's like at 12% and it could be at like 100, like 80%? Like, what would that 70% change look like if I just changed more of my input in like godly things? So spending more time with Jesus, loving, sacrificing, being more unselfish. So that's for me, like a way that I've seen this kind of acted. I don't know if y'all have anything like that.
I think I got to a point a little while ago. I kind of realized, I mean, social media is like so big nowadays. Everybody has it, you know, you on this, on that. And I got to a point where I realized like every night before I go to bed, I would normally read my Bible before I go to bed, but there'd be nights where, you know, I get home late and I'm like, oh, I'm really tired. I'm just going to go to bed. But then, you know, I'd turn off the lights, get in bed, and then get on social media and scroll through my phone. And I got to a point I asked myself, I said, if I have time to do this, why don't I have time to spend with Jesus?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you have an iPhone, it's really cool. You can set screen time.
Yeah, that's
I'm like,
right.
I'm a 19-year-old adult, but you know what? I'm gonna set these limits on myself.
Me too. Right.
Because like you need to make that decision. And I think that's also what's so important about like surrounding yourself with a good like Christian community, because there are other people who are going to point that out.
That's right.
Like I have had so many conversations with my friends for so long. We're like, oh, it's so annoying that we get on Instagram all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so annoying that we're on Snapchat just like so aimlessly.
Yeah.
It's, why don't we make a change? Why don't we make a difference? And like Jesus is worth so much more than just scrolling through Instagram.
Right.
And I mean, how much do you even pay attention to that? You're not paying attention to anything that's on social media.
Right.
And like reading your Bible and making that difference and making that change is going to change your life.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's going to like, it's going to change what you're consuming and it's going to change what you're putting out, because you're consuming something that's worth so much more.
Yeah. That's really good.
I remember when I was at Sam Houston, we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and there were 4 of us, and we turned one of the bedrooms into a small group room, so that if any of us who were all 4 small group leaders had small group on the same night, we could have a small group in the living room and in that second bedroom. So we had 2 sets of bunk beds in one room in this small apartment complex. And I mean, it's like, which I know is very unpopular up here, to share a room with someone. I shared a room with 3 guys. It was amazing. And I think one thing that you are basically saying yes to, you're signing up for, is not letting things hide in your life. Like, I mean, if you're living with 4 people who love Jesus and you're sharing a room, like, I mean, that is such a low level of privacy, honestly.
That's right.
And I think privacy, depending on who you ask, is like either really glorified and the most important thing in life, or like someone, like Jeff doesn't have any personal space, and that's awesome. He's like an open book. Like his friends know everything about him because he shares his life with people. But yeah, I think there should be a certain amount of like, just we've got to be vulnerable, and we have to let people see into our lives, because when we do that, we allow people to see what's inside of us, and we give them permission at that point to call it out, like what y'all were talking about with like wounds from a friend,
right?
And so the closer you bring people to yourself, the further, and like, I don't know, that's just like, it's just so crucial. Like I know that I grew way more having that close proximity with these guys who love Jesus and loved me, than I would have had I like had my own room really by myself. And just so grateful that like the Lord gave me friends who were down to share a stinky college, like bedroom with 4 dudes, and sometimes we had guys sleep over, and there was like 7 dudes in the house or whatever. So
it's awesome.
It was a good time.
It makes me think like this whole idea you mentioned, like John 15, you mentioned Luke. I mean, it's pretty much the same passage in Matthew 7. It's essentially just like A plus B equals C. Like, if you bear good fruit, then it's going to affect others in a good way. Like, if you have like a bad attitude and like someone's kind to you, that's on you. Like, you're not being rude because you're being kind, right? You're not in I can't remember exactly where it is, but it talks about like the works of the flesh and the fruit of the spirit. Is it in Galatians?
Galatians 5:22.
Galatians 5. It says, it kind of gives this list of the works of the flesh, which is like, like hard, like the works, right? But then the fruit of the spirit, and it says at the end of that passage, it says, against these things there is no law, and it's love, joy, peace, patience, all the fruit of the spirit. Against these things there is no law. And so no matter where you're at, the fruit of the spirit can only bring life and or reveal death. It can only do one or the other. And I think for us,
yeah.
it's like I'm not responsible for how you interpret my generosity. Like if I'm like, hey, here's some, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, I'm not a charity case. It's like, I'm just trying to be generous. I didn't think you were a charity case, you know?
Yeah.
But the thing that we can affect, and I think this is like, I guess a question is, the thing that we can affect is how, basically what fruit I am affected by. And so like the people that I'm putting myself around, y'all both mentioned having good roommates, you mentioned having friends that are looking out for you. So how have y'all maybe put yourself in a position, maybe like made a conscious choice to be affected, instead of by like bad fruit being affected by good fruit? Does that make sense?
I think for me, for a long time, I was actually kind of thinking about this the other day, but I was in band for a really long time growing up, and I mean, it wasn't like a bad community
Right.
at all, but I mean, obviously wasn't Christian based.
Yeah.
But coming to college, like I marched the Pride my freshman year, and coming from high school band, like that was a family, and I was like really used to being around everybody, and I was comfortable with everybody. But when I got here, there's just like it wasn't the same, and I didn't really like click with anybody, and I mean. Yeah, everybody would go out every weekend, and that's what everybody wanted to do. And I said, can we just watch a movie, make some cookies, do anything else? But I mean, once everything changed with COVID, I decided not to march anyways. But looking at next year, I was like, oh, you're going to do it if it's back to normal.
Right.
I just don't really feel like that was a community that was building me up the way that I wanted to be built up. And coming into Chi Alpha and having people that, like, it feels like a family again.
Yeah,
like,
cool.
there's so
Praise
many
the
people
Lord.
that, I mean, like, even you guys here, I mean, I've not had, like, a long conversation, but I know you, and I know that you still care for me, even if, if I called you tomorrow, like, hey, Charles, I really need you to do this for me, you would do it.
Yeah.
And I just think that's, like, so cool, and realizing and choosing your community that you're surrounding yourself with, and knowing that those people have, like, goals as you, and, like beliefs.
Yeah, that's good.
And I feel like it's important to, like, with the Chi Alpha community and, like, or, like, the Christian community in general, it's like we're being real with each other. It's like we're brothers and sisters. We're, like, I'm going to call you out on some things that you're doing, but I'm doing it out of love because I want to see you be fruitful and, like, see you be kind to others and stuff. Like, and, like, what you mentioned earlier with, like, the Galatians, like, love, joy, peace, like, Paul did that in his letters. Like, he wasn't afraid to call out the churches in his letters. Like, but he was doing it out of love. And, like, he loved them so much that he was, like, willing to write to them in prison when he could have been doing other things.
Yeah.
And, like, that just, it's so cool. It's just, like,
Getting yoked.
Yeah. That, like, yeah, it's just, like, being real with each other is important in community.
Yeah,
and, like, when being real with each other, that's when, like, we sharpen each other, or, like, we produce much fruit.
Yeah, I think, like, and some people talk more than others. I talk more than most. And so it's, I think it's quite a bit easier for me to share things about my life with the people around me.
Yeah.
Whether they want to hear it or not, I'm just talking about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff is like things I'm thinking about, or a trip I went on, or, what I think about, whatever. And so I think, like, maybe a little bit easier for other people that are around me, my friends, to know what's going on in my life. And for others who aren't as talkative, or, like, just share whatever they think about whatever, there is, like, an intentionality of, man, even though, like, I kind of just want to chill here, like, I need to like share stuff, and kind of make yourself knowable. I mean, like, the Bible is a book that God had written to reveal Himself to all of humanity, and so I need to do the same. And so if someone is, like, just not very talkative or open or whatever, then, like, that's an intentional act that, like, they need to make. And I think like someone who did this really well, who also talks quite a bit, is Andrew. He like was praying about something, and then like that morning he sent me a text, "Hey, can we hang out? There's something I need to tell you." And then he told me something that he had been praying about, and he was like, basically while we're hanging out, he was like, "Yeah, I know I just needed to tell you this because like if I didn't, I feel like it'd be easy to like brush it off or feel like it wasn't real or whatever." And it was just really cool because even for someone as open as Andrew is with his friends, he like had to make an intentional effort to like make sure that thing that he learned or thought about or prayed through was like shared with his friends. And so it goes like for anyone. I mean, like we've got to intentionally share the things I'm going through, like just making yourself knowable.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Do y'all think that do y'all think there's like neutrality, like in the decisions that we make, in like the words that we say? Like, do you think there's like a neutral area?
I feel like there's not, because it's like if we remain neutral, that's like we remain in the shadows. It's just like we're just sort of lukewarm, sort of. It's like you can either be like very like front with your words and like aggressive with it and just be like, "Hey, I want to be front with you," and just like constantly be like that. But then you're like, "No, I feel like I'm gonna hurt their feelings," and like be very to yourself and be like, "Okay, sure, whatever." But I think it's like you can't have a neutral in this situation.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think about like earlier how we're kind of talking about like it's okay to just have like a little bit, you know, if there's just like a little bit of bad or a little bit of good. I think like remaining neutral and like you were saying, just kind of being okay, whatever, whatever you say. I feel like if you remain neutral and you're not constantly a part of the conversation, constantly thinking about like what difference you can make, then like no change is going to happen. And that's not the point of trying to hold people accountable and, you know, trying to make a difference and like having a stake in somebody's life.
Yeah, I think like, I don't know, I can't remember the exact phrase, but like inaction is action.
Yeah, that's right.
And so if I just go about my day allowing things to come into my eyes and my ears and my mind and my heart, that stuff is affecting me. And so if I'm not being intentional about that stuff being good and godly, then I'm not just staying like, it's like if there's a stream, you know, one's going upstream, you know, and it's flowing a certain way. It's not like I'm on the stream and then when I stop spending time with Jesus, I just like hop on the rock. And then it's like, you know, like on the side of the stream and like I just stay there. It's like, no, like if I'm not swimming one way, then I'm going to be pulled the other way. And I think it's like, it's just easy to not see it. But because it's a relationship, when I call some of my friends from Texas that I haven't seen in 3 months or a year or 4 or whatever, my friendship is not the same as it was. And it's easier to see it when there's more amount of time in between. And so if I, you know, only listen to, you know, secular music for a day and read romance novels or whatever, it's like I'm just like, oh, whatever, and I read a few verses in the Bible. And it's like, all right, I had time with Jesus and I just, you know, had all this other stuff. Like, even though it may be like an unnoticeable difference, that stuff still affects me. And I think we're either moving towards Jesus or away from him.
I agree.
At every single point.
It makes me think of, I don't know. I think I kind of am like tending to think more and more and more that there is no like neutral, good fruit or bad fruit. Jesus isn't like fruit, you know. He says it's one or the other, and it's kind of like I think it was maybe like, I don't remember, geometry or algebra 2 or something, some high school math class, and they did like the points, remember? And then they do the lines. Do you remember that? And they would be like, oh, every line is infinite if it has this arrow. Y'all remember? And I've been thinking about this more and more, like, And I remember them saying, like, even if it's just like a slight degree, right now they look like they're very close.
Oh, yeah.
But in infinity,
Right.
they're going to be like on a different planet, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think what you just said and what we're talking about is like, that's what's at stake.
Yeah.
It's not living with someone who's not a Christian. It's not hanging out with people who's not a Christian. It's not sleeping in the same room with a bunch of guys who are Christians. It's like that is like the act. But the point of all this is to say, I will not be close to Jesus if I continue to bear bad fruit. I can't be. It's not Jesus isn't rude. He's not like, oh, you're bearing bad fruit, Brandon, so you're in trouble. You know, it's like, oh, you're bearing bad fruit. Okay, out of the way. You know, you're bearing good fruit. Okay, you're in, you know, like it's just simple. It's not like I bear good fruit, so God likes me. It's like I bear good fruit, so I look like him. So I'm on this trajectory, like those lines.
Right,
like
yeah.
I'm on this trajectory to be like him. Therefore, he would want to spend eternity with me. I would want to spend eternity with him. You know, and it's not just eternity. 5 years from now, 1 year from now, like 3 days from now, like I'm gonna be more and more like Jesus, or I'm not.
Right.
And I think that's why I asked the thing about neutrality, because it's like even like thoughts that I have, even words that I say, even like little things, like listening to that silly music, it matters. It actually does, and I think we want it to not, because it's easier, or we're just selfish. We can be selfish, and so, anyways, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, or it's like, I mean, just whether someone hasn't told us, hey, this stuff affects your character, or we like forget about it, you know, then it's like, hey, now you know this stuff affects you, change it.
Yes.
And that's going to happen for the rest of our lives. I mean, there's stuff that we're going to be seeing, you know, all throughout our lives that, like, oh man, I think I need to cut this out.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably not good for me.
Right. And Jesus isn't inactive in this. It's not like, oh, you're my friend and you love Jesus, so I need to hear you say it to me. He doesn't want me to. It's not even about the what. It's not even about the what. It's about the why. He doesn't want me to be a selfish person. He doesn't want me to make decisions solely for my happiness. Like he's active in this. He's also the one saying, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, like when you read these things, when you're praying, when you're spending time with the Lord. But I think you said it yesterday, like the significance of community. One of y'all said it. What was it, you? Talking about the voice of God?
I think so. Yeah, just how like God gives us our friends, and like why we have our friends is that God can speak through them as well, to like just affirm that. Because I mean, we were just talking about, you can hear God and what he's saying, but I mean, I'm somebody that's like, oh, did he really say that, or am I really hearing him right? But having a friend come up to you and possibly sometimes not even having any idea that you're struggling with something, come up to you and say something. And it's like, okay, it's not coincidence. And I think that's also what's really cool. I mean, especially in my walk and just thinking about like becoming more and more a Christian and just getting closer with Jesus, there's not really coincidence. You know, if you're reading in your Bible, your friend says it to you, this happens, like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to do something with that. I don't know. But no, like Jesus is intentional, and Jesus is intentional through our friends, which is really, really cool. And I feel like if friends aren't pointing out those things in you, if your friends aren't challenging you, and you're not surrounded by people who are constantly challenging you, like, get new friends. I don't know. Like, that's something hard. That's something that like I super value. I mean, even the people that I've just met like through Chi Alpha this past year, like each one of them, I can see how they're challenging me and how they're making me better. And I think that's really cool. If you're having friends that you're just kind of whatever with, and like, what's the point of being friends? Like, you want to get better, and they want you to be better too. Yeah,
Brandon, I remember you talking about, or kind of made a joke about it yesterday, like y'all's house being called the Forge. Can you just like what were you saying about like iron sharpens iron?
Well, basically, like, if you don't know, like, our friend Jeff, me, Ben Radenheimer, and Ryan Mears were living in a house next year, and like I'm so pumped for it because like that community that we're going to build in that house is going to be, it's going to be fruitful, but it's also going to be a forge, basically, because like we're sharpening each other because we love each other, and like we're being real with each other, but also like we're welcoming other people into the house and just be like, hey, we want to build this community in this house, and like through that we want to like show you like what the fruit is, sort of like that, and it's just like we want that community in the house to be very beneficial to everyone who enters it. And like, I don't know, if we're having people over for a Saturday to watch WVU play, we want to have that. It's like, okay, how can we be fruitful in this situation? It's like, okay, like every conversation leads to Jesus. Like talk to them when there's a commercial, or talk to them when the game's over. Okay, what are we doing next after the game's over? It's stuff like that. It's just like I'm excited for it. And
that's cool.
like currently I'm kind of living by myself, and it's just like I'm not too excited about it because it's just like I don't have anyone when I get home to pour into me or to like pour into. It's just like, okay, I don't want to be here. I want to be out with my friends so they can pour into me and I can pour into them.
Yeah, like the point of life, what we believe is that God wants us to be with him, and in order to be with him, we have to be like him.
Yeah, that's right.
And so all of this stuff that we're talking about, community, iron sharpens iron, filling ourselves with good fruit, or like Jesus, so that like we can bear good fruit for the people around us, is because like I need to be full of Jesus, so I need to fill myself with him, and I need to be around people who are filling themselves with Jesus, because they're going to overflow into me. And their life is going to affect mine, and then my life is going to affect them too. And all of this is so that we can be a community of people who fight for each other to look like Jesus, so that we can be with him, and so that he can be with us actually in our community as well. And so the people we surround ourselves with, the stuff that we consume, is so crucial, because it really does have a huge effect on us looking like Jesus, more like him, or looking less like him.
That's good. Cool. Well, thank you guys. Do y'all have any final thoughts? No? Okay. Well, thank you guys again. This was really fun. And we will see you guys next week. Hope you have a great small group. And we love you. Later. Bye.